All right, time to learn about your marquee selections here in Adobe Photoshop. So I have this file open in the first folder from chapter 5, Marquee Selections. Should be folder 1 called Marquee Selections. And you can see on my layers panel here, we have 3 layers to work from. Okay, number 1, the bottom one obviously is the whole street scene. I'll turn that off. The second one in the middle is this standalone fire hydrant, and there's a reason why that has been isolated. You'll see that later on. And the final layer is paint strokes here. So as proof to me that you know how to select each one of these shapes correctly, you're going to follow the instructions down below. Select each of the numbered objects, then paint a 10 pixel yellow stroke around each one as proof that you did it right. So all your paint strokes are going to go here at the top. Since we're going to be painting yellow strokes, I'm going to take my eyedropper, fourth one down on the left, and just click on the yellow type. So now we have yellow set up as our foreground color. Then I'm going to switch right up here to my rectangle marquee. Okay, before I start, I would always recommend zooming in. Don't work from a distance. If you zoom way out like this and you're working from a great distance, that's like a painter trying to paint a canvas with an 8-foot long paintbrush. They just don't do it. Okay, you zoom in for details. So I'm going to zoom in on number 1. Just click and drag to the right. I can hold my space bar to move that around if I need to. And since we have a simple rectangular sign, I'm going to go to my rectangle marquee, and all you have to do is go from the upper left right through diagonally to the lower right. You don't have to click and drag across and then straight down. That's ridiculous. Just go from corner to corner. Right there. Okay, as proof that you've painted a 10 pixel stroke, that you've selected this right, you're on your top layer. You're going to go to Edit, Stroke. All you have to do is keep it on the center and set the width to 10 pixels. Okay, what that's going to do is if it's centered, 5 pixels of yellow are going to go inside the edge of this selection. 5 pixels of yellow will go outside the edge of the selection because it's centered. And when you click OK, there's your proof to me that you know how to select a simple rectangular marquee. Okay, the next goal is to deselect that once you're done, and that's Command D or Control D on a PC. Okay, if you hold your space bar, you can always reactivate your hand tool, and I can push this up. That'll allow me to come down here to this little black square, number 2. And if you have a perfect square, the width and the height are the same, anytime in your mind you're thinking perfect, hold your Shift key. So I'm going to hold Shift from the upper left corner, drag down to the lower right, and I let go of the mouse first, then my keyboard. Shift will make a perfect square. Edit menu, stroke. You do not have to change anything here. This remembers the last thing that you did, so all you're going to have to do from this point on is just keep clicking OK. Command D to deselect. Now I hold my space bar for my hand tool, and I'll pull this back up. And let's see, that's number 4. Let's pull this over here. And there we go. Number 3 is the handicap sign there. So if I'm a little too close, I can go to my zoom tool, click and drag a little bit to the left or the right to zoom in and out. And I want it right about there. And now the problem is when I take my rectangular marquee, all I'm going to get is a rectangle, but this handicap sign was photographed in perspective. So the problem is I'm going to start in the lower left corner. I can click and drag up to the height and all the way across to the other lower right corner, right about there, like that. Okay, but obviously you've got your corners sticking out. I have to drag to the widest part of this, which means these corners are way off from these over here. Okay, so what you have to understand about selections is they can start, but they can be edited. And here is the trick. There are two transformations here in Photoshop that you gotta be aware of. Okay, edit menu and transform and scale will give me an error message. It says the area is empty. How can it be empty when I've got a sign selected, right? Well, what you got to keep in mind is whatever layer you are on, that is what Photoshop is really looking at. So if I turn off these bottom two, we're on a blank part of a blank layer. You can't edit or scale nothing. Okay, there is nothing here. So edit menu and transform is to transform actual photographs. What we need to do is transform just the selection. And that's where you go to your select menu because you're transforming a selection. I'm going to go down to transform the selection. Okay, and at first you're going to get these nodes around the corners, the top and the bottom. This is a transformation tool, but it is a rectangular transformation. See, if I pull the corner in, it's just going to shrink the whole box, but it's still going to be a rectangle. And that's obviously not what I wanted to do. So if you ever make a mistake like that, just hit your escape key in the upper left corner of your keyboard. That's like I changed my mind kind of thing. And I want to start this again. Select menu, transform selection. What I have to do is tell Photoshop what kind of transformation I want to make. So on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down my control key, click inside the box, and that brings up what they call a context menu. Okay, now it's asking me what kind of transformation would you like to make? And I want to say perspective. This sign, this photograph was shot in perspective, so I need my selection to also be in the same perspective. So transformation I want is perspective. Now I click on the upper right corner, and when I pull that corner in, notice how the opposite corner is also coming in. You can go over here and do the same thing. As I pull one side in, the other side also goes in, and now I can match the perspective of that shot. There we go. Now keep in mind, you are transforming an object. So anytime you are done with transformations, you have to hit return. You have to tell Photoshop that you are done. Return. I accept what I've transformed. And now we've got a transformed selection in the perspective of the photograph. I go to edit, stroke, OK. Command D to deselect. If I were you, I would save my progress after each and every object that you are applying a stroke around. Okay, you don't want to get to number 5 or 6 and then Photoshop crashes. So every time you paint a stroke successfully around an object, save your progress continuously. I'm just not going to do it here on a demo, but I would recommend you do it. Otherwise, if Photoshop freezes, you got to start all over. And that's the last thing you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to hit Command D, hold my space bar for my hand tool, and I'm going to pull this down and down until I come up to this blue street sign. And obviously we don't have a rectangle. We've got a really odd, straight edged shape, kind of an abstract shape. I want to trace the two blue signs. So the second tool down on the left, if I press and hold, I have a Polygon Lasso tool. Okay, and just to show you on the side first, what you do is you play connect the dots. Okay, so if I click once and let go, now I move my mouse, click to connect the dot. Move, click, move, click, move, click, and then you want to find your way back to the start. Okay, you're going to see a little circle next to your lasso tool. So when you see that circle, that is called your loop. What you want to do is find your way back to the start till you see the loop, and then just gently click once, and that will close up your selection. So I'm going to hit Command D. Obviously, I don't want that. And I'm just going to pick a corner to start from, like right here. I'm going to click once and let go. Then I'll work my way down to this second corner right in here where this blue edge would stop right about there. Click and let go. Come down to every corner. Click and let go. Click and let go. Click and let go. Click. 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 And find your way back to the start. I can see that little circle, that little loop. I'm going to click once. Edit. Stroke. OK. Command D to deselect, and there's another one done. Hold my space bar for the hand tool. I'm going to push this up and over to the right. That'll bring me down to the stop sign here. And what I want to do is show you how to subtract from a selection. So again, let me show you right up here on the black area. What you're going to do for the stop sign is make a big rectangle around it. And obviously the corners are going to stick out here. You don't want those. So what you're going to do is take your polygon and you hold your Option key. Your Option key will give you a minus next to the cursor here. So what that's telling me is if I held Option key and said click, 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 click while holding Option, you can see how it slices off the corner. Okay? Anytime you hold Option or Alt, you're going to get a minus. So I can go up here, click, click, slice across the corner with my Option key, come back to the start while holding Option, and you can see how I can slice off those corners. Option or Alt means subtract from a selection. So I'm going to hit Command D and start with a rectangle. So here's the trick. When you have a rectangle, you don't have a corner to start from. So I'm going to start up here. I'm going to click and drag a decent size, about the size of that stop sign, but I'm not going to let go of my mouse. Okay, as I'm holding down the mouse, I'm going to hold down my space bar, and now when I move my mouse, I can move the selection as I am creating it. I'm holding down the mouse and the space bar. So I'm going to move my mouse toward the top of the sign, move it across so it lines up with the left side of the sign, right there. Just let go of my keyboard, not my mouse, and now when I continue to pull the mouse, I can resize that to the right and to the bottom right there. Now I let go of the mouse, and I've got a rectangular marquee all the way around the very outer edges. If you are slightly off, you can still just go to Select menu and transform your selection a little bit, but there's no need to when you have your space bar. So again, let me do that. I'm going to hit Command D, click and drag without letting go. I hold the space bar and now move my mouse, line it up on the top, line it up on the left. Just let go of my keyboard. Do not let go of my mouse, and I'll continue to pull the mouse to resize this box. So now it's also going to line up on the right and the bottom. Now I let go of the mouse, and I've got a perfect outer selection right there. Okay, to chop off or slice off these corners, you go to your Polygon tool, Polygon Lasso tool, hold your Option key. And I'm just going to hold it the whole time. So while holding Option, I'm going to go click, come down near this corner, click, come across this angle, click, click. I'm still holding Option and back to the start. Now I have sliced off that corner. I'll continue holding Option, click, come up to this corner, click, come across this angle, click, I'm still holding Option, and I come back to the start, and now I've sliced off that corner. Option key, doesn't matter where you start, Option and click, come up near that corner, Option click, Option click, Option click, Option click, and now I've sliced off the third corner. Option and click. To get it started, I'll hold Option and click right there, Option and click across, Option click, and now I've sliced off all four corners. Okay, I've still got yellow selected. I'm still on my top layer. Edit, stroke, OK, Command D. Okay, once I'm done with the Polygon lasso, I would suggest you switch back to your normal lasso, because if you forget and you're still stuck on the polygon, you click, you can't just double click right there. You'll get an error message, okay? You can't just click anywhere because it'll just go on forever like this. It'll just make this huge spider web. Okay, and if you lose track of where you started from, it will not end. Okay, so if I lose track of that, you just got to stop, double click, and hit Command D. I would just recommend when you're done with the Polygon lasso, go back to the normal lasso. Okay, I'm going to hold my space bar for the hand tool, we'll pull it down to this detour sign, and now we have a twofold problem. First, we have a rectangle, but it's at an angle. And second, the corners are round. They're not sharp. Okay, a normal rectangle will either be perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical. And it's going to have sharp corners. So here's how you get a selection at an angle and how you round off the corners of a rectangle. So what you're going to do is click and drag, again, like I did the stop sign, a rectangle about the size of the detour sign, right about there. Okay, then again, we want to transform the selection. So that's not on your edit menu because that's editing pixels. Since you're dealing with a selection, go to select menu, transform your selection. I can go way outside the box and rotate it. I can go inside the box and move it. And now I can go on the corners and resize it. But notice I'm trying to pull this bottom right corner over to here, but every time I do, it's not doing it. It just keeps making the box smaller. So again, if you need to pull something apart to kind of distort it, hold your Shift key. And now you can see I can distort this box to any size I want by holding Shift. Now I can kind of wrap it around those corners, maybe go outside and rotate it just a little bit more there, get it a little closer to what I need. And there we go. Once I have transformed it, I hit return. You gotta hit return to tell Photoshop you're done. Now notice the corners are sticking out. The corners are sharp. The corners on this orange sign are round. So if you want to round off your corners on a selection, you go to select menu again, since you're dealing with selections, modify to change it, and you're going to smooth out the corners. It's like a block of wood and taking a piece of sandpaper and smoothing out the corners. I'm going to type in 20 pixels. Now when I click OK, I get a rounded corner on all four corners. That's it. Select, modify, and we smoothed out the corners. Okay, I'll just click cancel because we already did that. I'm on my top layer, edit, stroke, OK, and now we've got nice rounded corners around this sign. Always Command D to deselect, space bar for your hand tool, and now we're going to switch to elliptical marquees. So I go to my rectangle, press and hold for the elliptical. And now we're going to have another problem. So when it comes to circles, you don't have a corner to start from. Okay, I don't really know where the center is either. So what I'm going to do is use my space bar trick again. I'm going to hold my shift key first, click and drag a circle about the size, but I'm not going to let go of my mouse, and I'm not going to let go of my shift key either. While I'm holding shift and the mouse, I'm going to also press on my space bar. And now when I move the mouse, I can move this circle. It's not quite big enough, so I'm going to line it up on the top and line it up over on the left. I only let go of the space bar. I'm still holding my mouse and I'm still holding my shift key. I pull my mouse a little bit more. You can see how I'm resizing that circle, and now it lines up with the right and the bottom as well. I let go of the mouse first, then I let go of my keyboard, and I've got a perfect circle around this sign. So again, I'll just hit Command D on mine to show you. You can start it way over here. It doesn't matter where you start from. I can hold shift and draw a circle, space bar to move that circle, let go of the space bar, continue to pull the mouse, hold the space bar and move my mouse a little bit more, let go of the space bar, move the mouse a little bit more. That just took a few more little tweaks, but I got it. I let go of the mouse, then I let go of the shift key, always. Now I have a perfect circle. Edit, stroke, OK, Command D to deselect. Okay, it's always switch back to your space bar for the hand, and I'll pull this up so I can look at this ellipse. Okay, now we do not have a perfect circle, so you're not gonna hold your shift key. You can't. Shift means a perfect circle. This is not a perfect circle. So I'm going to go to my elliptical marquee, click and drag from anywhere. Like I said, I can start over here, hold my space bar when I get something about the right size, and I'll move my mouse, kind of line it up on the top and the left right there. My elliptical marquee is not the right proportion, so I only let go of the space bar, not my mouse. I let go of the space bar. Now I move my mouse to resize it, and now I can get it to match. Now I let go of the mouse. There's a perfect elliptical selection. Edit, stroke, OK, Command D. Perfect. Okay, as always, I'm going to hold my space bar for the hand tool, push this over to the left, and that'll bring me down to this number 9. And what we're doing in number 9 is we're going to combine this white rectangle with the black circle. So I'm going to show you off to the side. Okay, what we're going to do is add selections together. So I would obviously have to select the white rectangle that's the upper part of this sign. Then I'm going to switch to my elliptical marquee, and if I hold the shift key, I will get a plus next to my cursor. So if I hold shift and drag like this, I'm going to hold the space bar, move it so these two selections overlap or touch each other. I let go of my space bar now that it's in position, and while I'm holding the shift key, I let go of the mouse first, and now you can see they've been added or kind of melted together. So when you hold shift, you are adding selections together. Command D. I'll show you down here. If I clicked and dragged an ellipse, now I hold shift and do another one, shift and do another one. You can see how they add objects together. If I were to hold option, they subtract from these objects, like taking a bite out of it, like that. Command D. So here's how we're going to add these two selections. I'm going to start with the rectangle. from the upper left corner of this white rectangle all the way down to the lower right corner right there. Now I switch to my elliptical marquee. I'm going to hold Shift key for add. Shift does not mean a perfect circle now because we already have a selection. So if you have an active selection on your screen, holding Shift means add to the selection. So I'm technically going to get an oval. I just have to kind of eyeball it here. So I'll hold Shift. See, I've got an oval, so I'll drag it to about a circle. I hold my space bar to move the selection with my mouse. It's not exactly the right size, so I let go of only the space bar. I'll continue to pull my mouse with the Shift key, and right there I let go of the mouse first. Now I let go of the Shift key, and I have melted these two or added these two selections together. Edit, stroke, OK. There we go. Command D. If you're working at home, you're doing this for class, save your progress. Don't lose all that progress you've done so far. I'm going to hold the space bar and come down to the fire hydrant. And here's the goal. Okay, like I showed you in the beginning, the fire hydrant is on its own layer. You can see it when I turn off the eyeball. What I want to do is make a perfect selection around this fire hydrant. So the trick here is if you have an object that is isolated onto its own layer and you want to reselect that object, because it's a pretty complex outline here, you hover over the layer thumbnail. Not over on the right, not on the name, but right on the picture of the layer. Hold your Command key or Control on a PC, and you will get a little box showing up on the back of this hand. That little box is a marquee. So that's Photoshop's way of telling you, if you hold Command and you click on a layer thumbnail, you will select whatever was on that layer. If there were 32 fire hydrants on this layer, Command click would select 32 fire hydrants. In this case, we just have one. So Command click a layer thumbnail will select everything that currently sits on that layer. Now I come up to the top, edit, stroke, OK. Command D to deselect. You can save your progress again. Now I hold my space bar for the hand tool, and I'm going to push this way down to the right to come to the last one, number 11. And what we're concerned with here is not the rectangle. We're concerned with selecting all 9 circles. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for detail. And we're going to have to add 9 selections together. So with my elliptical marquee, I'm going to hit Command D, make sure no other selections are active right now. Then I'm going to hold my Shift key. The first selection means circle when you hold Shift. So I'll click and drag. Now I hold my space bar and move it. It's a little bit too big, so I'll let go of just the space bar, not letting go of the Shift key, not letting go of the mouse. And I'm going to pull that back with my mouse right there. Okay, I'm going to let go of the mouse first. Now I've got one circle, but I need to add 8 more. Okay, so you have 2 options. You can either hold Shift key the whole time, like this. I'll do one of them. Hold Shift. Remember, we're getting ovals now, so you kind of have to eyeball this. I'm holding Shift key in the mouse, and now I hold my space bar and move it. That one's also a little bit too big. So I just let go of my space bar, move my mouse while I'm holding Shift, and now I'm going to let go of the mouse first. Now I've added 2 of them together, but I don't want to sit there and hold the Shift key the whole time. Okay, so when you're on your marquees, your elliptical marquee, there is a series of buttons right up here, and the first, or technically the second button, when you hover over it, says add to selection. So I'm going to click that. That's like Photoshop holding down the shift key for me. Now I don't have to worry about that shift key. It's already got the plus on the cursor here. All I have to worry about is my mouse and the space bar. So I'm going to click and drag, hold my space bar and move it. Let go of the space bar, resize it. And now I let go of the mouse. Click and drag, hold space bar and move it. Let go of the space bar and resize it. And let go of the mouse. And I'm going to keep repeating that. Click and drag, space bar to move. Let go of space bar to resize. And then I let go of the mouse. Click and drag, hold space bar to move. Let go of the space bar to resize with the mouse. And let go. Click and drag, hold space bar. Let go of the space bar and resize. And I let go of the mouse. Click and drag, hold my space bar, let go of my space bar and resize it. Hold my space bar again to move it. Let go of my space bar again to resize it. Sometimes you got to do it multiple times. But you can see, you can get it to match. Click and drag, space bar to move. Let go of space bar to resize. And there we go. I've got all 9 circles. The only other thing I'm going to remind you of is now that you're done using that feature, turn this button off. Don't have it stuck on that. So click back on the original. Okay, that's like using the rectangle or elliptical marquee in its normal fashion. I'm done using the shift key, so I want to turn that second button off. I've got all 9 circles. I'm on my top layer. Edit, stroke. Okay, there's all 9 circles. Command D. And if I have zoomed in like this and now I want to see the whole thing, it's Command 0. Command 0 means fit on screen. And there is my proof that I have selected every one of these objects correctly. So you're going to save your file. Typically you save it with your last name, your first name, so I know whose it is. Last name, first name, Marquees, and save it as a JPEG to turn in. I'm going to close mine because I'm done showing you how this works, so I can move on to the next great demo. And that's how you use Marquees here in Photoshop.